Jihai opened her eyes to bright white light. Her head hurt. She tried to move her arms, but could not. Something held her down on a cold, hard table. "Where am I?" she whispered. Her voice sounded strange in the silent room. The last thing she remembered was sitting at her desk in her small Seoul apartment, working on her linguistics research. A soft hum filled the air. The white wall in front of her turned clear like glass. On the other side stood three tall beings. They were not human. Jihai's heart beat faster. The beings had smooth, pale skin that shimmered with colors like oil on water. Their eyes were large and black, with no pupils. Long, thin fingers moved over glowing panels. They were at least 7 feet tall with narrow bodies. "Hello," Jihai called out. Her voice shook. "Who are you? Why am I here?" The beings did not answer. They watched her and made notes. One of them, taller than the others, moved closer to the clear wall. He, Jihai thought it might be male, studied her with cold interest, like she was an insect in a jar. A voice filled the room. It spoke in a flat tone that did not sound natural. "Subject H137 is awake. Female. Age 29. Occupation. Language specialist. Physical condition. Below average. Threat level. Minimal." Jihai pulled against the straps, holding her wrists and ankles. "I am not a subject. My name is Jihai Kim. I demand to know why you took me." The tall being tilted his head. He pressed something on the panel in front of him. A soft click sounded, and the straps released. Jihai sat up quickly, rubbing her wrists. "You will be studied," the voice said. "Your species is of interest to the On. You may call me Tahoe." Jihai looked around the small white room. There was nothing but the table she sat on. No doors, no windows, just the clear wall showing the three aliens watching her. "Studied? For what purpose?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "To understand inferior species," Tahoe replied. "Humans are physically weak and mentally limited, yet you have survived on your planet. This is puzzling." Anger pushed away some of Jihai's fear. "We are not inferior. Different does not mean worse." The aliens made a sound like water bubbling. It took Jihai a moment to realize they were laughing. "Subject shows expected defensive response," said a female-sounding voice. This alien was slightly shorter, with a blue tint to her skin. "I am Sumin, research assistant." Jihai slid off the table and walked to the clear wall. She placed her hand against it. It felt warm and vibrated slightly. "How many of us have you taken?" she asked. Tahoe made a gesture, and images appeared on the wall. Dozens of small rooms like hers, each with a human inside. Men and women of different ages and races, all looking scared and confused. "You are number 137, Tahoe said. "The others have provided useful data. Some have survived their tests. Some have not." Jihai's legs felt weak, but she refused to show fear. She was a linguist. She studied patterns in language, how people communicated. Already her mind was working, noticing the strange clicks and tones in the alien speech when they talked to each other. "I want to go home," she said firmly. "That is not possible," Sumin replied. "Testing begins tomorrow. Rest now." The third alien, who had not spoken, pressed a button. A small bed rose from the floor in one corner. A shelf appeared with water and what looked like food. As the clear wall turned white again, Jihai heard Tahoe say, "This one shows unusual calm. Marker for extended testing." Alone in the silent room, Jihai sat on the edge of the bed. Tears threatened, but she held them back. These beings, these On, thought humans were weak. They expected her to break down, to beg, to give up. "I will show you what humans can do," she whispered to the empty room. "I will learn your language. I will understand you. And somehow, I will get home." She lay down on the bed and closed her eyes, her mind already working on a plan. Jihai woke to a sharp buzzing sound. The white walls of her room glowed brighter. She had slept poorly, her dreams full of tall beings with shiny skin and black eyes. Subject H137. Prepare for testing, said the flat voice she now knew belonged to Taiho. Ji-hai stood up and straightened her clothes. She had counted the hours as best she could. It seemed she had been here for 2 days now. The clear wall appeared again. Taiho and Sumin stood watching her. Today they wore silver suits that caught the light. What kind of tests? Ji-hai asked. We will measure your mental and physical abilities, Sumin replied. Follow the lights. A line of small blue lights appeared on the floor. They led to a section of wall that slid open. Ji-hai hesitated, then followed the path. She entered a large round room. The walls were covered with screens showing strange symbols. In the center sat 3 objects: a cube made of shifting panels, a helmet with wires, and a small platform. Taiho's voice came from speakers in the ceiling. First test, problem solving. The cube floated up from the floor. It moved toward Ji-hai and stopped in front of her. Complete the pattern sequence, said Sumin. Ji-hai looked at the cube. Each side showed different colored shapes that moved and changed. She realized it was a puzzle. The shapes followed rules she needed to figure out. Ji-hai touched the cube. The panels responded to her fingers. She tried different combinations, watching how the shapes reacted. Her mind worked quickly, finding the patterns. After several minutes, she solved the first side. Then the second. Each grew harder than the last. Behind a window high above, Taiho watched with surprise. The human is performing better than expected, he said to Sumin. Previous subjects took 3 times longer to solve the first level. She is a language specialist, Sumin replied. They understand patterns well. Ji-hai completed the cube faster than any human before her. Sweat covered her forehead, but she felt a small victory. Physical testing will begin now, announced Taiho. The platform in the center of the room lit up. Ji-hai stepped onto it as directed. Immediately, gravity seemed to increase. Her body felt heavy, her movements slow. Run in place, ordered Sumin. We will increase the gravity gradually. Ji-hai began to run. At first it was manageable, but soon her legs burned with effort. Her breathing became hard. The aliens increased the gravity more and more. Humans are physically weak, Taiho noted, recording data. Their home planet has low gravity, and they have poor muscle density. Ji-hai's legs gave out and she fell to her knees. The gravity returned to normal. Final test for today. Emotional response, said Sumin. The helmet floated toward Ji-hai. She was too tired to resist as it settled over her head. Images began to play before her eyes. Sad scenes, happy ones, frightening situations. The helmet recorded her brain activity. Their emotions are strong but simple, Taiho observed. They respond most to fear and attachment feelings. When the helmet showed Ji-hai images of human children in danger, her heart rate spiked. The aliens noted this with interest. Why do you care about offspring that are not yours? Sumin asked when the helmet was removed. Because all children deserve protection, Ji-hai answered, still catching her breath. It's called empathy. Empathy is inefficient, Taiho said. It wastes resources on non-related beings. Ji-hai looked directly at the window where she knew they watched. Empathy is what makes us human. It's not a weakness. It's our strength. Taiho made notes on his screen. Subject shows interesting defense of flawed evolutionary traits. Schedule advanced testing for tomorrow. As Ji-hai was led back to her room, she noticed Sumin watching her with what seemed like curiosity rather than just clinical interest. In her room, Ji-hai collapsed on the bed. Her body ached from the tests, but her mind was active. She had learned important things today. The aliens were physically stronger and faster at calculations, but they didn't understand emotions the way humans did. That might be useful, she whispered to herself as she fell into exhausted sleep. 5 days had passed since Ji-hai arrived on the alien ship. Each day brought new tests. Each night she fell asleep with her mind full of the strange sounds of the On language. As a linguist, Jehai had studied many human languages. She knew that all languages had patterns. The On language was no different. When the aliens spoke to each other, Jehai listened carefully. She noticed how their words fit together, how their sounds rose and fell. Today, Tahoe and Su-min stood in the testing room with a new device. It looked like a clear board with moving lights. Subject H137 will now attempt communication tasks, Tahoe announced. The board lit up with symbols. Some looked like the ones Jehai had seen on the screens around the ship. Match the symbols to their meanings, Su-min instructed. Jehai stepped forward. The first symbol was curved like a wave. Below it were pictures: water, fire, air, and earth. Jehai touched the water picture. The board made a pleasant sound. Correct, said Su-min. Jehai moved through the symbols quickly. Her mind connected patterns, finding rules in the alien writing system. After an hour, she had learned 30 symbols. The subject shows above-average language skills, Tahoe noted. But this is just matching. True language requires more. Jehai looked at him. For days, she had been careful to hide how much of their language she understood. But now was the time to surprise them. _Melan Vok Anti _, she said carefully, using the On words she had learned by listening. Both aliens froze. She had said, I understand On speech. Su-min dropped her datapad. Tahoe's eyes widened. How is this possible? Tahoe asked in his own language, forgetting to use the translator. Jehai smiled. _Ket no reshpan _ I listen and learn. The subject has been studying our language without our knowledge, Tahoe said, quickly switching back to human speech. This is unexpected. It is impressive, Su-min added. No other subject has attempted this. Jehai stood taller. I am a linguist. I study languages. If you want to understand humans, you should talk with us, not just test us. Tahoe seemed upset, but Su-min moved closer to the clear wall that separated them. How much do you understand? Su-min asked in the On language. _Miktavin _ Jehai replied. Not everything. This changes the testing plan, Tahoe said. The subject must be isolated from hearing more of our language. Why? Su-min questioned. This shows humans have greater learning ability than we thought. Or it shows this subject is not typical, Tahoe argued. We must not allow bias in our research. Jehai listened to their argument, understanding most of it. She learned that the On thought humans were too emotional to develop advanced technology. They believed humans would destroy themselves before reaching the stars. I can help you understand humans better, Jehai said in their language. If you treat me as an equal, not a test subject. Tahoe turned to her. Humans are not equals. Your species is young, violent, and primitive. Yet I learned part of your language in 5 days, Jehai replied. Is that primitive? For the first time, Tahoe seemed unsure. He spoke quietly to Su-min, too low for Jehai to hear. Finally, he faced Jehai again. Very well. We will try a new approach. Tomorrow, you will work with Su-min on direct language exchange. This may provide better data. After they left, Jehai sat on her bed with a small smile. This was her first victory. Small, but important. The aliens had seen her as weak and simple. Now they would have to see her as a person with skills and intelligence. As she practiced more On words quietly to herself, Jehai knew that language was just the beginning. To escape, she would need more than words. She would need the On to see humans as worthy of respect. Sleep came easier that night. For the first time since her abduction, Jehai had hope. 2 weeks had passed. Jehai's days now included language sessions with Su-min. She learned more On words and taught Su-min about human languages. Tahoe watched these sessions from a distance, making notes and looking unhappy. One night, Jehai woke to a strange sound. The lights in her room flickered. The wall screens showing on writing went dark, then came back with different symbols. Something was wrong with the ship's systems. Ji-hai got out of bed and went to the wall. The normally solid white surface now showed thin lines where panels joined together. One panel had a small gap. A malfunction, she whispered to herself. Ji-hai pressed her fingers into the gap and pulled. The panel moved slightly. She looked around nervously, expecting alarms, but none came. The ship's systems were busy fixing bigger problems. She pulled harder. The panel slid open enough for her to see into a narrow space with glowing tubes and wires. Beyond that was another room, another cell like hers. Inside, a man sat on a bed similar to Ji-hai's. He looked Korean, with short black hair and tired eyes. He was drawing complex diagrams on the floor with what looked like a piece of his meal tray. "Hello," Ji-hai whispered in Korean. The man jumped up, startled. He came to his side of the wall. "You're Korean?" he asked, his voice muffled through the wall. "Yes, my name is Ji-hai Kim. I'm a linguist from Seoul. Do-hyun Park. Physicist." He pointed to the gap in the wall. "The ship is having power problems. It might not last long." "Are there others like us?" Ji-hai asked quickly. Do-hyun nodded. "Many. I've heard the aliens talking. There are at least 50 humans here. And other species too." "Other aliens? Being tested like us?" "Yes. The On collect beings from all over. They think they're the most advanced species in the galaxy." Ji-hai's mind raced with this new information. "Have you learned anything about the ship? Any way to escape?" Do-hyun shook his head. "The ship is massive, like a flying city. Even if we got out of these rooms, we'd never find our way to escape pods, if they even have them." The lights flickered again. The gap in the wall began to close slowly as systems came back online. "Quick," Ji-hai said. "Tell me what you know about the On." "They're dying out," Do-hyun said urgently. "Their birth rates are falling. They think studying other species will help them find a solution." "How do you know this?" "I pretend to be less intelligent than I am. They talk freely around me. Also, I can read some of their language from the screens." The gap narrowed to just an inch. "Meet me in dreams," Do-hyun said quickly. "What?" "The tests they do on our brains. They connect our minds to their machines. I found a way to leave messages in the system. Think of a red door when they put the helmet on you." The gap closed completely. The wall became solid white again. Ji-hai stood there, her heart beating fast. She was not alone. There were others, and maybe together they could find a way out. The next day, Tai-ho came to Ji-hai's room looking troubled. "There was a system failure last night," he said. "Did you notice anything unusual?" Ji-hai kept her face calm. The lights flickered. "I went back to sleep." Tai-ho studied her face. "Today's tests will involve neural mapping. Your brain patterns will be recorded and analyzed." Ji-hai remembered Do-hyun's words. A red door. In the testing room, Su-min placed the familiar helmet on Ji-hai's head. As the machine hummed to life, Ji-hai closed her eyes and thought of a red door. She imagined it clearly, wooden, painted bright red, with a brass handle. Deep in the ship's systems, where human thoughts became data, something unexpected happened. A connection formed. A pathway opened. Ji-hai smiled slightly as the tests continued. The On thought they knew everything about humans. They were about to learn how wrong they were. During the neural mapping test, Ji-hai thought about the red door. In her mind, she pushed it open. Behind it, she found a dark space filled with faint lights, like stars. "Hello," she thought. "Ji-hai." Do-hyun's voice came as a whisper in her mind. It worked. "How is this possible?" Ji-hai asked in her thoughts. The On connect all test subjects to the same system. They study our brain patterns together. I found a way to create a shared space. We can talk here. Other voices joined them. Faint at first, then stronger. Other humans. Some spoke Korean, others English, Chinese, and languages Ji-hai didn't know. Through the strange connection, their thoughts translated for each other. "How many are there?" Ji-hai asked. "Hundreds across the ship," replied a woman's voice. "I'm Hee-jin, botanist. I've been here 6 months." "The On are scared," said another voice, deeper and slower than human speech. "I am Kroll, from a planet you would call HD 40,000, 307 grams. My people have been studied by the On for many years." Ji-hai felt a chill. An actual alien was speaking to her mind. "Why are they scared?" "The On believe they are perfect," Kroll explained. "But their perfection has become their weakness. They no longer adapt or change. Their numbers grow smaller each cycle." In the testing room, Su-min noticed unusual patterns on her screen. Subject H137 shows increased neural activity. "Interesting." Tai-ho looked over her shoulder. "Too much activity. End the test." "Wait," Su-min said. "This could be important data." In the mind space, Ji-hai talked quickly with the others. "We need to understand the On better. What do they want from us?" "They want our diversity," Yi-jin explained. "Humans adapt quickly. We change. The On have been the same for thousands of years. Their society is rigid," Du-hyun added. "Each On has a set place. They don't question their roles." "What about Su-min?" Ji-hai asked. "She seems different from Tai-ho." Kroll's thoughts felt like they were smiling. "Yes, she is what the On call a deviation. She shows curiosity about other species instead of just studying them. The On leaders consider this a flaw." Ji-hai remembered how Su-min had defended the language sessions, how she seemed genuinely interested in human culture. Then Su-min might help us, Ji-hai thought. The connection began to break. The red door started to fade. "They're ending the test," Du-hyun warned. "Remember, the On fear emotion most of all. They see it as primitive, but it may be our greatest weapon." The helmet lifted off Ji-hai's head. She blinked, coming back to the testing room. Su-min stood nearby, looking at her with curious eyes. "Your brain activity was unusual," Su-min said. "What were you thinking about?" Ji-hai decided to take a risk. "I was thinking about my family, about people I miss." "Family units, for reproduction only?" Su-min asked. "No," Ji-hai said. "For love, for belonging." Su-min tilted her head. "Explain this concept of love." "It's caring for someone else more than yourself, wanting their happiness even if it costs you something." Tai-ho interrupted. "Enough. This is not productive research." He turned to Su-min. "Your interest in human emotion is concerning. The council will hear of this." Su-min's skin changed color slightly, showing blue patches. Ji-hai realized this was how the On showed fear. "I am simply gathering data." Su-min defended herself. "Understanding their emotional systems may help us. It may contaminate you," Tai-ho warned. Then he left the room. When they were alone, Su-min moved closer to Ji-hai. "Tell me more about this love," she whispered. "Our records show it makes humans do impossible things." Ji-hai saw her chance. "I can show you, if you'll let me." "Show me how." "Through stories, through our history, through music." Su-min hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, for research purposes." As Ji-hai was led back to her room, she felt hope growing. She had allies now, both human and alien. And she had found a crack in the On's perfect system. Su-min's curiosity. That night, Ji-hai dreamed of the red door again. Behind it, voices waited, ready to plan their next move. Over the next few days, Ji-hai shared human stories with Su-min. She told tales of courage, sacrifice, and love from Korean history and world events. Su-min listened with growing interest, asking many questions. "These emotions make humans act against their own interests," Su-min said. "Yet you see this as good. Sometimes caring for others is more important than caring for yourself." Jai-Hai explained. During one session, the door opened and Taeho entered with 3 tall on Jai-Hai had never seen before. They wore silver robes with bright symbols. "The council representatives are here to evaluate your research," Taeho announced to Sumin. "They are concerned about your methods." The tallest council member stepped forward. "Subject H137 has been given too much freedom. The data is becoming contaminated. Respectfully, Elder Yunji, I believe direct interaction provides better understanding." Sumin replied. "The subject should be reset to standard testing," said another council member, "or terminated and replaced with a new specimen." Jai-Hai felt cold fear. Reset likely meant wiping her memory. Terminated needed no explanation. Su-Min's skin showed blue patches of worry. This subject has shown unusual abilities. Termination would waste valuable data. The council members looked at Jai-Hai with cold eyes. Jai-Hai knew she had to act quickly. "I challenge you," Jai-Hai said clearly in the On language. The room went silent. The council members stared at her. "Specimens do not speak unless instructed," Elder Yunji said. "Yet I do speak," Jai-Hai replied. "I have learned your language. I have solved your puzzles. You say humans are inferior, but you have not truly tested us." "What challenge do you propose?" asked the third council member, looking curious. Jai-Hai stood tall. "A fair competition. 3 tests chosen together, one that favors On skills, one that favors human skills, and one neutral test. If I win, you must treat all human subjects with respect and as intelligent beings." "And if you lose?" Taeho asked. "Then I will accept any testing you wish, without complaint." The council members spoke quietly among themselves. Finally, Elder Yunji turned to Jai. "Your challenge is accepted. It will provide useful data on human overconfidence." The elder's voice was cold. "Taeho will represent the On in this competition." Taeho looked surprised, then pleased. "I accept this duty. The tests will be as follows." Elder Yunji continued. "First, mathematical computation, an On strength. Second, language acquisition, a claimed human strength. Third, adaptation to unknown situations, a neutral test." Jai-Hai nodded. These were fair choices. She would likely lose the first test, but might win the second. The third would be the deciding test. "The challenge will begin tomorrow," Elder Yunji announced. "It will be observed by all research teams." After the council left, Taeho approached Jai-Hai with a cold smile. "You have made a mistake, human. I am the top researcher for a reason. My mental abilities are superior even among the On. Maybe winning isn't my only goal," Jai-Hai replied quietly. That night, Jai-Hai connected with the others through the red door in her dreams. "The challenge is set," she told them. "If I win, conditions may improve for all of us." "And if you lose?" Yi Jin asked. "Then I've still shown them that humans are brave enough to stand up to them," Jai-Hai said. "And I've bought time for our real plan." "What real plan?" Do-hyun asked. Jai-Hai smiled in the dream space. "To teach at least one On what it truly means to be human." Su-Min is already changing. She's asking questions the others don't ask. "A dangerous plan," Kroll warned. "The On fear change above all else." "That's exactly why it might work," Jai-Hai said. "While I compete against Taeho, I need all of you to focus your thoughts during your next neural tests. Think about home, family, love, the strongest emotions you can. If we all do this at once, it might affect their whole system." As Jai-Hai woke the next morning, she felt both fear and hope. Today's challenge wasn't just about winning tests. It was about showing the On a different way of seeing the universe. Su-Min came to escort her to the challenge arena. "The entire research ship will be watching," she said quietly. "No human has ever challenged the On before." Jai-Hai took a deep breath. Then it's time they saw what humans can do. The challenge arena was a large round room with high walls. Seats rose up in circles, filled with hundreds of On watching silently. Ji-hai stood on one side of a clear platform. Tai-ho stood on the other side. The council members sat in special chairs above everyone else. "The first test begins," announced Elder Yunji. Mathematical computation. A large screen appeared between Ji-hai and Tai-ho. Complex equations filled the screen. "Solve these in the correct order," said the elder. Ji-hai worked quickly. Her math was good, but not special. She solved problem after problem, her mind racing. But Tai-ho moved faster. His long fingers flew over his screen, solving equations Ji-hai couldn't even understand. When time ended, the score was clear. Tai-ho had solved twice as many problems correctly. "First test to the On," Elder Yunji announced. The watching On made a soft humming sound of approval. Ji-hai wasn't surprised. She had expected to lose this round. The On brain was built for fast calculations. "Second test, language acquisition," the elder continued. A new screen appeared, showing symbols from a language neither of them knew. It came from a species in a distant part of the galaxy. They had 30 minutes to learn as much as possible. Then they would be tested on their understanding. This was Ji-hai's strength. As a linguist, she looked for patterns, relationships between symbols. She noticed how certain marks changed the meaning, how groups of symbols worked together. Her mind mapped the new language onto structures she already understood. Tai-ho worked just as hard, but Ji-hai could see he was approaching it differently. He tried to memorize each symbol separately, not seeing how they connected. When time ended, they were each given new symbols to translate. Ji-hai worked confidently. Tai-ho moved more slowly now. The results appeared on the main screen. Ji-hai had correctly translated 82% of the test. Tai-ho had managed only 65%. "Second test to the human," Elder Yunji announced. A surprised murmur went through the crowd. Tai-ho's skin showed patches of dark green, anger or frustration. "The test was flawed," he said. "The test was fair." Su-min replied from her place near the council. The human showed superior pattern recognition and adaptability with language. "The third and final test will decide the outcome," Elder Yunji said. Adaptation to unknown situations. The center of the platform opened. A strange device rose up. It looked like a box with many sides, each side a different color and texture. It hummed softly. "This is a creation of an ancient species," explained the elder. "It presents a unique problem to each user. You must find what it asks for and provide it. You have no way to prepare for this test." Ji-hai approached the device carefully. When she touched it, one side glowed. Pictures appeared, showing different scenes. A child crying, a family eating together, two friends laughing, a person alone in the rain. A soft voice asked in a language she somehow understood, which shows true connection. Ji-hai realized this was a test of emotional intelligence. She pointed to the family eating together. The side glowed brighter, then changed to show new pictures. Across from her, Tai-ho faced his own challenge. He frowned at his side of the box. His test seemed to involve moving shapes to create a pattern. He worked quickly, but his movements were stiff. Ji-hai continued through her test, answering questions about emotions, relationships, and choices. For the final question, the box showed her two images: a strong wall protecting a single person, and a broken bridge with people helping each other across. "Which shows greater strength?" the voice asked. Ji-hai touched the broken bridge. The side of the box glowed bright gold. Tai-ho was still working, his skin now showing patches of blue stress. His side of the box remained dim. Finally, time ended. The box sank back into the floor. The main screen showed the results. Ji-hai had completed her challenge. Tai-ho had not. "The human has won the third test," Elder Yunji announced, her voice showing surprise. "The challenge results stand at 2 wins for the human, 1 for the On." A shocked silence filled the arena. No one had expected the human to win. Jihai stood tall, looking at the council. I have met your challenge. Now you must meet the terms we agreed to. Elder Yunji nodded slowly. The human subjects will be treated with the respect due to intelligent beings. This outcome requires us to reconsider our research methods. Jihai caught Su Min's eye across the room. The alien researcher's skin glowed with a soft purple light that Jihai had never seen before. Later, she would learn this was the on-color of admiration. After winning the challenge, Jihai was moved to new quarters. Her room was larger, with a real bed and a window showing the stars outside. Other human subjects were given better treatment too. They were allowed to meet in small groups, but not everyone was happy with these changes. Many on, including Taiho, believed that treating humans as equals was wrong. They feared it would weaken their society. 1 week after the challenge, Jihai was called to meet with the council. Su Min came to escort her. The council is divided about you, Su Min explained as they walked. Some see the value in what you've shown us. Others want to return to the old ways. Jihai nodded. Change is never easy. The council chamber was a large room with 7 tall chairs. The elders sat looking down at Jihai. Taiho stood to one side, his skin showing patches of green anger. Human Jihai, said Elder Yunji. You have won your challenge, but Taiho has raised concerns. He believes your victory was luck, not skill. He requests a final demonstration of human abilities. Jihai looked at Taiho. What kind of demonstration? Explain how humans would solve the problem that faces our species, Taiho said. If humans are as intelligent as you claim, surely you can help us. Jihai understood the trap. If she couldn't solve their problem, they would say humans were useless after all. I don't claim to have all answers, Jihai said carefully, but I will share what I know about human survival. Proceed, Elder Yunji said. Jihai took a deep breath. The on-face extinction because you've stopped changing, growing, and connecting with others. Your society values sameness over difference. Taiho's skin darkened with anger. Our uniformity made us great. It built our civilization. Yes, Jihai agreed. But now it's killing you. Life needs variety to survive. New ideas, different ways of thinking. The council members looked at each other. Jihai continued. Let me tell you about my grandmother. She lived through the Korean War as a child. She lost her home, her parents, everything. But she survived by connecting with others, by forming new families with strangers who became friends. As Jihai spoke, she remembered that all across the ship, other test subjects were focusing their thoughts on emotions and memories during their neural tests. She hoped their plan was working. When food was scarce, people shared. When danger came, they protected each other. Not because they were related, but because they understood that survival comes through cooperation, not isolation. Emotional stories prove nothing, Taiho interrupted. But they teach everything, Jihai countered. My grandmother lost her biological family, but she created a new one. She adapted, she changed. And because of that, I exist today. Jihai looked at each council member. The On searched the galaxy for answers, but you look down on every species you find. Maybe the answer isn't to study us like specimens. Maybe it's to connect with us as equals. She turned to face Taiho directly. Your people are dying not because you're weak, but because you refuse to bend. You refuse to feel. You refuse to change. Enough, Taiho shouted. This emotional display is primitive and... No, Su Min interrupted, stepping forward. She's right, Taiho. I've studied humans closely. Their emotions don't make them weak. They make them adaptable. Su Min turned to the council. My research shows that emotional connections drive human innovation. They take risks for each other. They sacrifice for strangers. These traits help them survive countless disasters. Ridiculous, Taiho snapped. Emotions are a primitive evolutionary trait that saved my family, Jihai said softly. She described how her grandmother had carried a neighbor's child through a burning village during the war, how strangers had shared their last food with her. As Ji-hai told the story, she noticed something extraordinary. A small drop of liquid formed at the corner of Su-min's large eye. It grew, then slid down her shimmering cheek. The room fell completely silent. Every on stared at Su-min in shock. "She's leaking fluid from her visual organs," one elder whispered. "She's crying," Ji-hai explained gently. "She's feeling empathy." Tai-ho stepped back, as if Su-min had become dangerous. "This is contamination. She must be quarantined." But Su-min touched the tear on her face with wonder. "No, this is understanding." Su-min's tear changed everything. News spread quickly through the ship. An On had cried. An On had shown emotion. It was unheard of. The ship buzzed with confusion and debate. Some On called it a sickness. Others, a miracle. The council argued for days about what to do. Meanwhile, Ji-hai met with Do-hyun and other humans daily. They shared their stories and discussed their future. "What will happen to us now?" Yi-jin asked during one meeting. "I don't know," Ji-hai admitted, "but things cannot go back to how they were before." One morning, Ji-hai was called to a new room she had never seen before. It was filled with light and plants from many worlds. Su-min waited there, along with Elder Yunji and two other council members. "Human Ji-hai," Elder Yunji began. "The council has reached a decision after much debate." Ji-hai stood tall, ready for whatever came next. "The On have existed for over 10,000 years, the elder continued. "In all that time, we believed our path was the only correct one. We studied other species as lesser beings. We were wrong." Ji-hai could hardly believe what she was hearing. Su-min's emotional response has divided our people. Many fear it, but some of us see now that it may be our salvation. Su-min stepped forward. Her skin glowed with new colors, purples and golds that Ji-hai had never seen on an On before. "The council has decided that all test subjects will be returned to their homeworlds," Su-min announced. Joy filled Ji-hai's heart. "We can go home." "Yes," Elder Yunji said. "But there is more. A new group has formed among the On. We call ourselves the Connected. We seek to learn from other species not through study, but through exchange." Tai-ho and his supporters disagree, Su-min added. "They believe this is weakness. They have separated from us and taken their own ship." "And what will you do?" Ji-hai asked. "I will be the first ambassador of the Connected," Su-min said proudly. "I will visit Earth officially, to build new relationships between our peoples." Ji-hai smiled. "From researcher to ambassador. That's a big change." "You taught me that change is not something to fear," Su-min replied. 3 days later, Ji-hai stood with all the human subjects in the ship's transport bay. They were going home at last. Do-hyun stood beside her, holding a small device given to him by the Connected On. "This will let us communicate with their ship," he explained. "We'll be Earth's first unofficial ambassadors to the On." Ji-hai nodded. "And we'll need to prepare Earth for Su-min's arrival. Humans might not be ready to meet aliens. If anyone can help them understand, it's you," Do-hyun said with a smile. Su-min approached them one last time before they boarded the transport ship. "I want to thank you," Ji-hai, the alien said. "You were studied as a weak thing, but you showed us a different kind of strength." "We all have different strengths," Ji-hai replied. "That's what makes the universe interesting." Su-min's skin rippled with new colors. "I have been practicing something. May I show you?" "Of course." Su-min's face changed, the muscles moving in new ways. Slowly, her mouth curved upward at the edges. "You're smiling," Ji-hai exclaimed. "Is it correct?" Su-min asked, holding the expression. "It's perfect," Ji-hai said, smiling back. As the transport ship carried them home, Ji-hai watched the On research vessel grow smaller through the window. What had begun as a terrifying abduction had led to something no one could have predicted. the transformation of an entire civilization. The other humans around her talked excitedly about seeing their families again, about the future. There would be challenges ahead. Earth would need to prepare for first contact. The On would need to learn how to connect with other species as equals. But Jihai knew now that differences could become strengths when shared. The On had studied her like a weak thing until she made one of them cry. That tear had washed away old barriers and opened new possibilities. As Earth came into view, beautiful and blue, Jihai thought about her grandmother's stories of survival and connection. She had never imagined those stories would one day help save both humans and aliens. She touched the small communication device in her pocket. Soon, she would tell her grandmother a new story about tears, transformation, and the beginning of something wonderful. The end.